Right, welcome to the FBC podcast. My name is Justin, and as always, I am joined today by Nathan.
Hello.
And Greg.
Hello.
And for those of you who've not listened before, what this is the three of us plus a mysterious fourth member pick two bets per weekend, which we combine into an 8-game accumulator. We wager a bit of money every week and we try to win. Every week on the podcast, we'll discuss the previous week's bets and what went wrong, and we'll talk about our forthcoming bets for the weekend ahead.
Yeah, very good.
Every week you can go to the www.thefootballbetclub.com and that will have all of our information on there as well. Also, you can follow us on Facebook, The Football Bet Club, and also follow us on Twitter.
Yeah, great. So without further ado, I guess we delve straight in and talk about what went wrong last week.
Nathan.
All right, so
sometimes we do pretty well. Last week was our first episode on the podcast, and I think we felt the pressure. A bit of a disaster. We got 3 from 8, which is far below our normal standards, I think.
Well, last week, the week before, I was 2 from 2. This week, I was confident. Now I'm on 0 from 2.
We did try and tell you.
It's not gone well. But there was 2 bets really. One was a bet Wigan at home to win. However, they didn't come off. It was what I called a home banker last week. It was a bit of a nothing game really, 6% possession. But anyone who went to that game said it was pretty much.
So you bet on Wigan to win.
Yeah.
And it finished 0-0.
And it finished 0-0. Yeah,
right.
At home to Oldham, who don't score any goals.
Right, yeah.
So that was a bit of a disappointment there. And last week as a whole was one of those ones where I thought about a few people to bet on, and the people that I didn't bet on came off.
Standard.
You know, so I was thinking about AC Milan. They beat Genoa 2-1 at home, and also I was thinking about back in Valencia last week. G-Nev, he reigned in his first victory.
Yeah,
so,
2-1.
2-1, yeah. Even Negredo scored. So
didn't he have a massive rant at someone after
he
the
did.
game?
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It was during the game.
During the game.
There was like a lip-read video of him using all sorts of expletives.
Effing and seeing.
Yes, using some expletives towards his own Manchester. Yeah. The bet that killed us really.
First bet won.
We didn't even get to 4:45 because the 2:30 kickoff in Germany, which was Stuttgart versus Hertha. Yeah. We all warned you against it. Yeah. You chose to ignore everything we said.
I'm a stubborn guy, but it's the second week in 2 weeks that Hertha's let us down as the FBC kind of betting club. So we were a little bit disappointed with that. But actually, there's a story behind this. Because at the weekend, I was in Germany. And I went to a party on Friday night.
Good for you.
And in this party, I was speaking to a traditional German football supporter.
Okay.
And he was talking about...
When you say traditional German...
Lederhosen.
Yeah. Eating bratwurst.
And drinking out of steins. Yeah, that's exactly what he was doing. But I was talking to him about the FBC and obviously wanting to follow. But then I was talking about the Stuttgart bet and he was like, Nathan, it is a banker. And I was really confident. I put it on the FBC WhatsApp group. Very, very good motion going into it. And then all of a sudden, last week, I was very, very worried about Stuttgart being able to break down Hertha's defence. Well, actually, they won 2-0 and Hertha couldn't score. And it turns out that since they come back from the Christmas winter break over in Germany, they haven't been on good form. So I'm a little bit disappointed with that. But Stuttgart, the tip from the traditional German.
I like me trying to blame a traditional German for your shortcomings in this tip.
Well, I had already backed it before I was there, but he was saying that Stuttgart actually had a really poor start to the season and sacked their manager, promoted a manager from within the team, the manager from within the club, and now they're really, really scoring lots of goals and they're doing very well. So they've won 2-0, but it might be something for us to bet on in future.
The question is, why didn't we just bet on
Stuttgart
in the first place?
Because Hertha traditionally in the league, I think Hertha were 4th, Stuttgart maybe 8th or 9th. So they've actually had a better.
Far up?
Yeah, they've had a better
season.
Yeah, they've had a better season.
I think we did point you in the direction of some stats last week though that said that Hertha had a couple of 0-0s in the last 4 games.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's good to ignore the stats. Sometimes it is good to just think, well, I've got a little gut feeling here, but. They were in a bit of a goal drought, and we were just hanging, waiting for them, and it was never going to happen. I don't think
it was a disappointment, and I think Hertha. I don't think they're going to be backed again this season by anyone.
No.
So we will see. But anyone else who's wanting to go next?
Well, I'll go in, seeing as I took a bit of flack on last week's show for going for the obvious bets, and they were obvious bets. I went for the top 4 of the Prem to all to score. So I had Leicester, Arsenal, both teams to score, and Man City, Spurs, both teams to score. And they came in, although, to be honest, halfway through some of those games, I was thinking, actually, this could be a bit risky. I was very fortunate with a couple of penalty decisions.
Yeah, you got
Raheem
two.
Sterling's was just never a penalty, although I do quite like Raheem Sterling giving away penalties.
I was aghast at the standard of refereeing in both those games. I thought it was diabolical that Atkinson and Clattenburg are representatives in Europe and in major competitions. And they were so inept in both games. And Atkinson
the worst.
Atkinson is having an absolute mare of a season.
Was Atkinson at Man City? Man City Tottenham?
He was that
he
was
was at the Arsenal
Clattenburg.
one.
Okay.
Atkinson was Arsenal,
Leicester, yeah.
Arsenal Leicester. But I mean, the guy he was during the Carling Cup semi-final. He was the one who didn't spot Raheem Sterling carrying the ball about 2 yards over the line before crossing it. He's having an absolute mare at the moment.
So you're solely blaming the Danny Simpson sending off for Leicester?
Well, I think you called
on
it on
his shoulders?
Twitter. I mean, Justin had his Twitter feed out. If you've been watching the FBC Twitter during the game, which was out
at FBC_Justin.
He called it on. The referee was looking like he was feeling the pressure because he gave a lot of fouls to Leicester, especially that penalty in the first half, and the Arsenal crowd were on his back. And then he's obviously had a look at it at half time and thought, I've made a bit of a mistake there. And he's come out after half time. And he's just given loads of bookings out to the Leicester players. And I mean, Danny Simpson was a bit silly, a bit naive or whatever.
He was very silly.
But I mean, still, I don't think that's a sending
There's
off.
no way you can look at those 2 fouls and say that equates to a red card.
Well, I would say the second, I would say the pullback was blatant. You could get booked for that. I'd say yellow card. The first one is the question mark. Because either he's given him a yellow card, maybe because he thinks that he's favoured Leicester a little bit in the first half, or it's for persistent fouling.
But
maybe that's the point.
I don't remember Danny Simpson particularly committing any other fouls other than those 2 fouls.
I think it was harsh.
Managers say it all the time. Not every foul has to be a yellow card, and I just don't think those 2 fouls can equate to 2 yellow cards.
From the game's point of view, Leicester were absolutely bossing that game. I thought
Unbelievable.
And for them to lose and possibly lose the title. Like that is, I mean, I quite like Danny Welbeck, but I've never been so sad for Danny Welbeck to score. I was just absolutely crushed. I mean, I'm a Nottingham Forest fan, and it sort of should pain me in my internal DNA to see Leicester doing so well. But you know, I think every football fan wants Leicester City to win the title. You know, just from like the dreamer's point of view, that it could happen to your club. But
I mean,
it was saddening to see that at the last minute.
That game, it reminded me of school football watching Kante, because he was anywhere the ball was around him, he got the ball. Anytime he got the ball, he did something with it. He was incredible. And every not even 50-50, but the ball was it was about to be won by the opposition, and he came out with the ball. He was ultimately impressive, and the change in the game really was the sending off, and it's a very, very sad state of affairs. The only thing I do give credit to Arsene Wenger and Arsenal for, they were. I mean, I spoke with you guys a few weeks ago about a lot of teams are naive when they played Leicester. But they really did handle the Mahrez, Jamie Vardy threat very well. Mahrez had 2 or 3 players on him. Although he did almost create a couple of chances, almost did get a penalty, although probably in hindsight it was a dive.
Let's be fair though, they substituted Mahrez just at the beginning of the second half. They had to.
But up until then, he was quiet.
And they did bring on for Mahrez. They did bring on Zangief.
Zangief from Street Fighter.
And then he actually did a Zangief moment to lose them the game, didn't he? Because he was the guy that came out and smashed the guy to the floor for the free kick when he just needed to basically just hold position.
If you're unsure what Zangief looks like, the Street Fighter character, go to at FBC Nathan on Twitter, and I uploaded that during the game, and it is a doppelganger.
Absolute spitting image.
Yeah. So anyway,
so I despite the disappointment of Leicester and everything like that, I mean that was all the terrible refereeing. It actually was heartening because it came and supported the FBC on our quest. Yeah. Well, it certainly helped my league position anyway. But so both teams did score in those games, and
just going back to Man City Tottenham. Obviously, Tottenham won that game. The situation with Pellegrini kind of leaving at the end of the season and Guardiola taking over. That can't be helpful. This is a team that's still technically on for a quadruple. They're still in every competition. And their manager's being replaced at the end of the season, and their form is dipping.
If they win one of those,
they're fading away badly. And I think the board have got to look at themselves. I think it's really detrimental the way they've decided they're going to appoint Guardiola 6 months before he's actually going to take over.
Well, I mean, when it first came out, a lot of people were saying that historically this is not a good thing. You know, Ferguson did it. For the few of the people who've done it and said actually not doing too well, apart from probably Guardiola.
How did Ferguson do it?
He decided that he was going to go the season before. It was going to be last year, and they didn't do too well, and then he stayed on anyway, didn't they?
Yeah. But then the season when he actually quit and David Moyes took over, he didn't actually announce it till the season was finished.
That's correct. But I think,
and they won the league.
But I'm going to say,
that's true.
Man City. I mean, I've always said that Man City. I thought Man City would win the league this year. I'm still sticking with them because I'm not one of them flaky people that changes it week by week. But Man City is 7-1 at the moment to win the league.
I don't think it's flaky to change.
That's good value, isn't it?
I don't think
great value.
How many points away are they? Sorry.
6 points. 6 points away.
6 points.
12 games left to the end of the season. Yes, they are in all 4 competitions, which is a bit of a problem. De Bruyne is injured. They're all different things.
De Bruyne injury is...
That is a big one. But Aguero's back. Company, maybe he's that good. I'm not too sure. Still carrying Yaya. And you think about it, they've still got Joe Hart, probably the best goalie in the league. They've got Company, who is an outstanding centre half, and they've got the best goal scorer in the league.
Is Raheem Sterling the worst ever value buy in the history of the Premier League?
Andy Carroll?
I think Andy Carroll was better than Raheem Sterling.
No, I disagree.
35 million, Andy Carroll.
Yeah, okay, Andy Carroll. But he's got to be close. That's got to be a good upfront partnership for the worst value ever.
I think I might put a little bit of my pocket money on Man City to win.
I don't necessarily think the saying you change your mind about Man City is flaky. The fact is Man City started the season like a house on fire and then have just continued to be mediocre ever since. I don't think changing your mind makes you flaky. It's just an observation that they're not as good as they were at the start of the season.
How good was Spurs though? I mean, I thought I was really impressed with Spurs. They wanted it more. I thought they had more class. I mean, the Eriksen finish was lovely to win the game. I mean, I think they're going to win the league. I didn't think they were at the start of the season. You just thought no way, but they're looking really really strong. For me,
the only thing that Tottenham are missing is Kante and the thought of No, I think it's someone to really maraud and run the game in the centre of the park. And I think that if he did go and he went to someone like Spurs would be ultimately impressive.
Isn't Dembele doing that job for the moment? He's really running their midfield.
He is a different type of player. I think he's a bit more classy. He's a bit more technically that kind of all-round player, where Kante is just all about, all-action kind of midfielder, isn't he? Box to box, does it all.
Yeah, I've got to say I backed Arsenal at the start of the season, and I think they'll do it. I don't want them to. I have no time for them, but I can't get away from the fact that they're Arsenal, and it's kind of they'll do it, and it will annoy everyone.
It will. Anyway, so let's moving away from those couple of games. Let's have a look at
my picks.
Your picks from last week.
Okay, so I got 1 out of 2. In fact, there was a little bit of a situation. If you listened to the podcast last week, you'd realise that I bet on Eastleigh to beat Barrow. Yeah. Unfortunately, the game was called off on Friday night.
Standard English league.
Do we know where Eastleigh is yet?
No, it's southeast. It's southeast somewhere.
Southeast somewhere.
Somewhere in the southeast of England.
Okay. Right. Okay. Sure. And. It could be absolutely anywhere. So that game was called off Friday night, so I had to do an emergency last pick, which was put up on the website and on the Twitter feed as well. Yeah. And that was Aberdeen to win away from home at Inverness on the Monday night. Yeah. I'll deal with the one I won first. The one I won first was no, I won't. I'll deal with the other one. The one I lost first. Aberdeen, they were cheated. They were absolutely robbed.
Lost 3-1.
They went 1-0 up. And then the referee gave a diabolical penalty against them, and then from that point onwards, the game just descended into a bit of a farce. The third goal was particularly hilarious because it was actually disallowed. It was a perfectly good goal. It was disallowed, and then after ages, the referee and the linesman realised that actually the ball had come off the defender, and therefore the attacker was not offside. Because it was a cross that was flicked on. They thought one of the attackers had flicked it on to his mate, but he hadn't. And eventually they gave it. But it was an absolutely shambolic game. Yeah. At one point, the undersoil heating generator kind of broke down and started billowing smoke all over the pitch.
And did you put that on the Twitter?
Well, on the Twitter feed, I was hoping it was a fire and the game would be called off. at that stage, it was 3-1. And now my second pick
was No, you had Aberdeen, and then you also had, what was it? I can't remember what it was.
I actually won it.
Yeah, it was your winner.
Well, the thing is, I wanted to bet on Coventry City, and Nathan dissuaded me from doing so, and they went on to win 6-0.
Sheffield Wednesday.
That was the only. Sometimes football is influenced by huge things, and sometimes very small things. But I think the tribute to Jimmy Hill before the game. was the reason why. Joe Cole
Oh
put
my
his scoring boots on. He made
Right.
three goals.
Was that this week?
Yeah.
5 ages ago.
No, it was a tribute.
Oh,
It was a home tribute.
Um,
So it just inspired the Sky Blues to play up.
So I should just point out, last week I asked Nathan, should I back Coventry? He dissuaded me from doing so. I also asked Greg, should I back Forest? And he dissuaded me from doing so. Greg was completely right because they lost 2-0 to Huddersfield.
2-0, yeah. But
And
awful,
Nathan was completely wrong because they won 6-0.
And the logic why I said not to do it is because we weren't scoring enough goals. And we won 6-0.
So the lesson I've learned is
Nathan doesn't support Coventry.
or do ask Greg before betting on a Forest game, and do not ask Nathan before betting on a Coventry game. So yeah, the bet I did do was fairly straightforward. It was a Sheffield Wednesday, good odds.
A touch in the first half, didn't we? Because Brentford got a man sent off.
Yeah, so Brentford had someone sent off. I think it was after 9 or 10 minutes.
Always helps.
And from that point onwards, it was coasted home. I think it was 3 or 3.
All the more disappointing because we were still waiting on Hertha Berlin to score for the duration.
Yeah, that's true. So I guess that brings us on to the wild card.
The wild card tips now.
Who lived up to his name in every sense. In that his tips were.
We know
wild.
very little about this man, but I'm starting to think we know very little about where his tips are coming from as well. But
I've heard a rumour. I've heard a rumour that he was a backing dancer in the Olivia Newton-John film Xanadu.
Wow.
The Twitter rumour mill has gone beyond itself there, really, hasn't it?
Well,
Let's be honest.
it could well be the case because I've heard lots of different things, but we'll go into those later.
But his bets were shambolic. Now we've built this man up to be some sort of betting don, who he's basically the Matrix was basically based on him. And his life, but
he does know his correct score bets quite well though.
He knows his
had
correct
an
score.
Exceptionally good correct score bet in midweek. If you've been following again, getting the Twitter references in, but he did a great correct score bet on the Paris Saint-Germain game 2-1, and he did very well on that. But his last week's form was very poor.
You can follow the wildcard at Twitter at wildcard_FBC.
So his bets were, first and foremost, it was Leyton Orient and Northampton, both teams to score. Yeah. Northampton won that game 2-0, didn't they?
3-0, I think.
3-0. His second bet, we're not going to. Do you want anything else we want to say about Leyton Orient and Northampton?
Well, no, I think it was the first goal that game they hadn't scored. I think
it was quite a good bet actually. I mean, I was a bit unlucky there. It's just one of those. I mean, Northampton were always going to score, but. Anyway.
Actually, did you see who Northampton's most famous fan is? Shaquille O'Neal. He put something on his Twitter talking about how he was really hoping that Northampton went up into the division above, and that he hoped to one day grace the stand of Sixfields, the stadium of Sixfields. Yeah, it's all over social media.
Didn't you not play your games at Sixfields?
Coventry City did. We had to move 32 miles away because of legal ramifications of our dodgy owners in the Rico Arena and us not owning it and all that different type of stuff. But we're back at home now, and we're not doing too bad. 6-0, mate. 6-0.
Yeah. And the wildcard second bet, which was the real aberration, because I kind of
you did tip him off.
I did say that it was not a sure thing by any stretch of the imagination. That was that he had Everton to beat West Brom. And listening back to the podcast, I said that I thought the odds were far too low for that. I think it was 1.57, and I didn't fancy it. There was a lot of things that could have gone wrong, and although Martinez picked the same side that had won the last few games, we conceded from a corner, which we do all the time, and we had 34 shots, only 6 on target, and didn't manage a goal. It was just not our day.
Was Timmy Howard back?
No. Joel Robles was in goal. Actually made a bit of a meal of the goal. Kind of got looped by a near post header, and then no one picked up Rondon at the back.
I saw some rumour you might be trying to sign Asmir Begovic as a replacement goalkeeper.
Well, I would love to have Asmir Begovic. I'd take David Ospina as well, who we've also been linked with.
Ospina's a decent goalie. I like Ospina.
The rumours are that he's going to favour a move to Spain.
Bigger club,
Bigger club.
I think that result in particular has really kind of hammered home that Everton are not having a good season. Despite some people started to tell me, Martinez doing okay, but it's turning into a shocker. It's an absolute shocker. Your home record has got to be one of the worst in the league, isn't it?
It's awful. It's awful. We are awful this season, and Martinez continues to underperform. I mean, we've got a brilliant attacking side,
brilliant squad,
full of flair, full of ability. But we cannot keep clean sheets, and and it's not good enough. And he's having a bad season.
I mean, a bad season is a bad season, but it's just what the implications are when you've got people like Stones. You've got people like McCarthy, you've got Lukaku, you've got Coleman, Barkley. Those 5 players, if they see you, if you're down there in the final third of the table at the end of the season, thinking I'm not playing in Europe, I need to get into the England team or play international football. They could be going. You know.
I totally think I would expect both Lukaku and Stones to leave in the summer. Wow. I think we'll keep Barkley. I think we'll keep McCarthy and Coleman. But I would say we're probably going to. We'll get a lot of money for them. Yeah. I'd expect us to get about 100 million for the 2 of them.
Do you think maybe with Morales as well?
How much do you think Lukaku's worth?
He's going to a centre forward, a goal scoring centre forward.
What is he? 24, 23?
23. I think we'll get 45 to 50 million.
Well, you signed him for 30.
We signed him for 28.
You're not a team to kind of lose value in big players, are you?
No.
I get that.
And he's on a 4-year contract. There's no imperative for us to sell him. So I think that it will take around 45 to 50 million for us to part with him.
That's an awful lot of money for Lukaku.
But you're right, we'll lose them, and we probably won't replace them with the same quality. Although Brendan Galloway, I do think will come through and be as good as John Stones, but I think he's a little bit of a way off at the moment. Right, so we should probably move on to this week.
So that was that. Sorry, that was just to wrap up. That was our last week. We got 3 from 5, 3 from 8, and if we are at least always on the FBC, we are always honest, and that's something that I really like about us. We are not trying to hide like some tipsters do on Twitter and things like that. We are trying to be honest and just have a bit of fun, really. So we don't try and hide our losses, and it was just a bit of a shambles last week.
And
but
it's probably another reason to gamble responsibly.
As well. So please do.
I was thinking about this though. I think if people go on the website, which is www.thefootballbetclub.com, and look at our stats, they can figure out actually which bets they should actually mirror. For example, my strike rate is just over 50%, so if you pick one of my 2, you've got a better chance than if you pick both of my 2.
I'm having a good season. But I'm having a good season, so I'm on top of the league at the moment. I did a little bit of stats research this week. If you'd back both of as my tips if you back my tips each week as doubles, you would now have a sort of 13 point profit, I suppose you could say. So I'm being quite successful in my bets.
What do you mean
doubles.
a 13 point profit?
Well, if you bet 1 point, so let's say £1 per week on those doubles, you would now have 13 times that. You'd have £13. As a sort of profit, So if you'd done.
So if you back to 10, you would have had 130 quid on your doubles.
If you put £1,000 on each one of my doubles, you'd now
have
£13,000. But not that I would say ever do that. But yeah, and if you backed the wild cards doubles, you'd now have minus £3.53. So, but all that information is on our website, so you can see our stats. And like I said, they are honest and truthful, and because we do believe that gambling and betting in general should be something that you do for fun and as a bit of a laugh, especially with your mates. So don't take it too seriously. Yeah. So onwards to this week's tips.
Over to you, Greg.
I'll go first, seeing as I'm in the lead at the moment, which I keep saying, but I'm just happy because I did not last like last year. So I'm going for my first bet is Burnley to beat somebody. Burnley to beat Rotherham. That's it. Yeah, well, it's 1.5, and I picked this one out straight away. Got in nice and early on the Twitter feed, and said Burnley to beat Rotherham. So I'm really confident that Burnley are on fire at home. They're a much stronger outfit than Rotherham, who kind of win. They can score goals, but they're very inconsistent. They're leaky. And Burnley have beat Hull 1-0 at home last time they were there. Yeah. And that beating a good quality outfit like Hull 1-0 says that they can easily dismiss someone like Rotherham.
Yeah, I know I'm probably my duty on the FBC forum is to kind of have a bit of a go at you for this, but actually I like that one. If I would have got my bets in a little bit earlier, then I probably would have backed Burnley. I think that Rotherham are poor. They've also got they haven't won in 5. And I think they did beat Brighton, and Brighton are doing like 3rd or 4th. They're doing all right this season.
Yeah.
So they have got a result in them. But hopefully that's not against Burnley. Yeah,
you're right to point that out. Weekend, Rotherham are not absolute jokers. They can win away as well. But I just think Burnley will be too strong. I think the price is okay. One of our picks has to be above 1.4.
And the other over 1.65.
And the other one has to be over 1.65. So that's my kind of almost my banker bet there.
And it's a tough week because it's FA Cup weekend.
There's no Prem, is there?
We tend to steer clear of the FA Cup because it's a little bit less predictable. Although one thing I'd say about the FA Cup is that there's been a lot of goals in it this year. So I was tempted by both teams to score, but picking a result in the FA Cup is a minefield.
I've got two rules of betting, and as I'm sure you're all really aware of, and everyone's going to follow now that I'm 0 from 2 last week. But one is don't bet on a derby, and 2 is don't bet on the FA Cup.
I'm sure you've got a third rule, which we're going to talk about in a moment, aren't we?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
And my second bet, so the slightly more kind of value tip, I suppose, is Barnsley at 2.5, and that's Barnsley to beat Doncaster. Now, Doncaster have had 3 straight losses.
Yorkshire derby?
It is like we said, it's like I said last week. Our geography knowledge is getting hammered on this, on this podcast. But it's Yorkshire battle, definitely, if not a derby. And I just think Barnsley have been a lot stronger at home, especially than Doncaster have. So
Doncaster have been terrible, especially when
one thing I didn't realise actually, I just realised that they've just lost their manager, Barnsley. So I'm a little bit. I think his name, somebody Cook, I think his name was. He's gone to Bristol City.
Okay.
So they're going to be managerless for this game, which adds to the excitement.
Everyone's playing for their place.
Everyone's playing for their place with their caretaker manager, but I didn't realise that. But I'm still not putting me off. I still think Barnsley will be strong there. Doncaster have not been on a bad run of form. So
judging by the look on your face, for those people listening, you're a little bit more worried about Barnsley, aren't you?
I'm not as confident as I was last week. That's for sure, but hey,
all right,
that's me then. So
over to Justin.
Okay.
Justin, you want to go to your bets?
Yeah. So I'm going to kind of hark back to something you said about your rules. One of your interesting sayings was that you tend to bet on teams to lose. Rather than
I can, yeah.
So both my bets might well fall into that category. The first
it's
of which,
funny how you laughed at me when I told you that, and here we are a couple of weeks later.
Well, it's your rationale. I'm still actually betting on the teams to win.
Always bet on teams to win.
I'd say. So the first bet is Bury versus Colchester. Now, Bury obviously were on the receiving end of that 6-0 drubbing at Coventry.
Yeah.
However, on Tuesday they beat
True.
6th or 7th place Sheffield United.
1-0, I think it was.
It was 1-0. And they've been fairly good this season. And Colchester, who we've talked about in the past, are poor. They are the Aston Villa of League One. They're going down without any shadow of a doubt. And it's a matter of when rather than if. And I just think Bury will have too much for them at home. Bury have had some good results this season. They've been a bit inconsistent. They had a really good start to the season. They're actually in the top 3 or 4 for the first couple of months and have fallen away. But they're still going to be too strong for Colchester at home. And again, the value's there, 2.05. So again, similarly to when I bet against Colchester previously, when I bet on Southend, the value being offered was really good.
Yeah, I think the reason why it's over 2, is because of the fact they got pumped at Cov. Yeah. So we thank Coventry for that.
Get pumped at Cov.
Hopefully, it will increase the money in our back pockets by next week.
Getting pumped at Cov.
Well, let's hope Colchester get pumped at Bury, because that's what we need.
My second bet again might well fall into the same category. It's Mansfield versus Dagenham and Redbridge. I've gone with Mansfield to win 1.7 over Dagenham and Redbridge. Again, it's at home, so it's at Mansfield's home.
Yeah.
Dagenham and Redbridge, I've got to say, have actually stung me a couple of times. They seem to lose every single game apart from when I back against them, at which point they manage to kind of squeeze a draw. Yeah. However, they are getting worse and worse and worse. And
they're bottom of the league, aren't they?
They're well bottom of the league, yeah. Right. York are pulling away from them because they've won their last 2. Because I was tempted to bet on against York in the similar fashion, but they've won their last 2. Yeah.
York at home are a different proposition to York away. York away are awful. But York at home, they have a decent. They're starting to have a decent record.
So this weekend it was Cambridge United versus York at Cambridge. Yeah. But York have won their last 2, and Cambridge are winless in the last 5 or 6.
Yeah.
I steered clear of it.
I looked at that exact same game there.
So Mansfield to beat Dagenham and Redbridge, and Bury to beat Colchester are my 2 bets.
That's interesting. I like the way you've picked out 2 teams to lose in the Nathan style. That's good. It's interesting though, isn't it? When you look down the list of who you're going to pick, you think, well, you're not necessarily thinking that team could win. I suppose you've got to find, could that team win? And if they're playing a team that's in just as bad form, in the reverse of it, that could be quite a logical step. So it's good.
My first bet to book a tradition is actually for a team to win, which is Forest Green to beat Eastleigh 1.83. And this is the second week that Eastleigh's been in the betting.
That's going to be tight.
Well,
I think that's going to be tight.
Well, Forest Green.
Will it be on? That's all I care about.
Forest Green are in very good form.
It's not at Eastleigh, is it?
No.
Okay,
It's at Forest Green.
Do you know where Forest Green is?
It's not far from here. It's not far from London, where we're recording this, I don't think.
Can I just say I found out where Eastleigh is now?
Where is Eastleigh?
It's just in between Winchester and Southampton, so it's down near the south
coast. That's south coast.
It's south east. Do you know what I meant by the south?
No,
why
that's
was it
not
called off
south
then
east.
the other week? Why was it called off?
Probably because it's coastal and the weather's probably really bad.
The wind.
The wind. Don't get me started on the wind.
Who knows? But that's 1.83. There's a 21-point differential between them in the league, so I'm hoping that's going to make it make a bit more of an easier game. And Forest Green have got the best home record in the league. They've won their last 5 from 6. 3 of those 6 have been 1-0, but they've scored 57 goals this season in 33 games.
What about? Do you think Eastleigh will have been well rested, not having had a game at the weekend? Is that an issue?
That is an issue, but Eastleigh have got to travel. So I'm going to say that
you don't even know where to.
All away teams have to travel.
No, I did think about that, but I just think that Forest Green are in such good form. It's difficult to look past them in that league at the moment. So.
I think Cheltenham and Forest Green have kind of pretty much wrapped up the.
I'm not as worried by this one as.
Yeah, and Eastleigh haven't won in the last 6 either, and they've conceded 3.
They even played in the last 6.
Who knows? Yeah. So that's a conventional.
I think that's all right. I'm happy with that.
And I think this is a rarity here, where we've got 2 people sitting next to me who are actually happy with my.
Well, with this one,
let's wait
only because the next one is so bad.
On to my second one: Wraith versus Livingston in the Scotch Championship. Under 2.5 goals, 2.2. How do you feel about that, Germany? Now, before I go into my spiel, because I do research my bets, I'm very aware this is going to mean nothing to you guys, and you're going to lambast me either way. All right, but Wraith. Have only scored 24 goals in 22 games all season. They've scored 2 in their last 6, and those 2 were in their last game away at Falkirk. Also, Livingston have only scored 2 in their last 6, and they've conceded 24 in 24. So it means that they're basically not really going to score. I mean, in the last 4 encounters...
Can I just...
in their last 12 games, cumulative between those 2 teams, they've scored 4 goals.
Yeah, well, that's not a bad stat. I mean, the danger here is how people use stats, and all stats are showing you what's happened in the past. They're not telling you what's going to happen in the future. If stats could tell us what was in the future, we wouldn't be needing to see this podcast. We'll be absolutely loaded. Yeah, but I mean, they're showing you a trend of what's happened now. In this next, they can indicate things though. Like you said, they can indicate maybe a relationship between 2 teams, how they play football or something like this. But are you sure that Wraith and Livingston, there's going to be hardly any goals in that game?
I think this might be an FBC first, where someone's bet under 2.5
goals.
Does anyone get this?
I think it's the only, only 1 or 2 maybe.
The reason it's not a very attractive bet is because it could mean that, by 3:30, all our bets are dead because it's 2-0 in a Wraith game. So it's a bit of a killer. It's a bit like the famous Chelsea win to nil, where Aston Villa scored in the first 10 minutes or something.
That was last season for those people when we didn't do the podcast, but a great bet. It was, I think, a cumulative value of £800 or £900 each, and they all came off, and it was sole blame, which is where one person's bet didn't come off, and it was Chelsea to win 2-0.
Oh no!
And
Aston Villa's Yoris Sakura scored in the first 10 minutes of that game.
I think we explained this on the last podcast anyway. So let's move past that.
Well, I'm not saying it was a risky. It's not a risky bet. I think it is, because you could get anything. You could get Clattenburg refereeing. It could be penalties.
Well,
left,
the state
right,
of Scottish refereeing at the moment, as we saw with the Aberdeen Inverness game, anything can happen up there.
Yeah,
it's like you're going beyond the wall in Game of Thrones, and it's just absolute crazy up there.
I think it's twofold. One, it's a first type of bet for me, this, and it is basically based on stats, and I kind of hope it does kind of live up to that. But also, it is an FA Cup weekend. I don't like betting on the FA Cup.
To be fair, there's only 8 FA Cup matches.
Yeah, but it also means there's a lot of teams not playing. Especially in the Prem and things like that.
It did feel a bit harder to pick out.
No, I didn't think so. I thought there was a pretty much full timetable in League 1, League 2 and the Championship even.
Yeah, we discussed this last week. The Championship is a dodgy league, in terms of results, but we shall see.
I tend to do quite well.
Justin has a very
Apart
good
from
record of the championship. I think we've got our
Apart
own
from the
little
Middlesbrough
specials.
game.
Yeah, I think they drew again this week, Middlesbrough, I think.
They drew against Leeds on, I think it was Monday night, actually.
Got man sent off as well, I think.
Jordan Rhodes played the whole game and still nothing at the moment.
No, the Jordan Rhodes effect has not taken
He
hold
scored
just yet.
No, he had a goal. He's had a goal.
Yeah, but they're still not winning games.
No, that's true.
Right, so that brings us to Mr. Mystery. That
Mr.
brings
Mystery.
us to
The wild card.
the man with no name.
I heard that he paid for Ramirez's transfer to the Chinese league out of the change he found in the back of his sofa.
Really?
That's
a lot of change.
And did you notice Nikita Jelavic has moved to the Chinese league?
They're all going, mate.
But Nikita Jelavic has moved.
I'm going there.
Nikita Jelavic has moved to the Chinese second division.
What?
He's not even moved to the first division.
Oh,
Nikita
wow,
Jelavic.
that is a fall from grace.
He's not even good enough to play in the Chinese first division. He's been signed for a second division side. Who's the latest one? Lavezzi from PSG. He's on his way.
Yeah. Oh, that's a loss. I used to like watching him play in the Champions League.
He's 30 years old. They're paying something like 25 million.
I
don't even know the names of the new clubs. It's just the Chinese are buying.
I agree. I don't know.
didn't want to bring
Shanghai.
up.
Shanghai's a team, right? That's who
That's a
Drogba used to play
city.
for.
I don't even know what the team's called.
No, but
though.
I'm sure Drogba used to
near
play for
Eastern?
Shanghai.
I didn't want to bring up a global bet of the week, which I announced last week, and it actually came in. So if you're following Hawke's Bay United at Saturday morning, they actually won 2-0, nice and easy. But maybe we should start bringing in global Chinese Premier League bet of the week, where we can start.
Do you have
that's a market.
Do you have a global bet for us this week?
No, but I will do in 5 minutes.
And your Sri Lankan ladies, they lost 4-0, didn't they?
I think they lost to Indian ladies. That was for those people who didn't listen last week. I was tempted to bet on that because of the struggle that I was having trying to formulate last week's bets. Which came to honesty my fruition in my 0 from 2 weeks. So anyway, what was the wild card?
So the wild card has kind of done away with pretty much all our rules and everything we've ever thought was sensible, and he's bet on 2 FA Cup games.
Silly.
The first one, and I don't think this is a bad bet. He's gone for Watford to beat Leeds, 1.61. I think it's all right. I don't see that as a particular banana skin. I think Watford will win that one.
I think they might. You got to say that Watford are strong favourites. But the only thing I'd say is that for Leeds, that game is their season. They're playing for nothing else.
Yeah.
And this is where they're going to be trying as hard as possible. And obviously, it's the cup. That's the danger of the cup, isn't it? That you get that mismatch in abilities and people try harder. And are Watford good? I mean, I suppose it's also kind of Watford's season in a way because they're not going to win anything in the Premier League wise, but they're already up, I suppose. But I just think Leeds are going to be a lot better than they normally would be. But like I said,
I avoid the FA Cup, especially when a Championship team is going to a Premiership team. Yeah. Because I think those Championship teams have something to prove to the Premiership clubs and say, we can play up here, and we're on a bit of a showcase type of thing. And also, I think the last game that they played in the round before that, Watford, you were playing your team, West Forest, and they won 1-0. And they played Deeney, but they didn't play Garlow. Obviously, they were resting for the league campaign. So it concerns me that maybe the rest of the team was pretty much full strength. I'm just worried about their match winners being able to play and obviously have an impact, at home to Leeds.
I think very good in that game.
I think being it's the last 16, I think they'll put out all their big guns. It's one of those you kind of. It's kind of a 1 in 10 situation. 9 times out of 10, Watford will win that game. But with the FA Cup, you have this 1 in 10 times that Leeds will kind of turn up and just.
I mean, if you think about earlier this season, it was Derby hosted Man United, and how close a game that was.
Yeah.
And Man United you'd say are a better team than Watford at the moment. Probably not by much, but they are.
Man United are doing worse than under David Moyes at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah.
Which is making Moyes look good. Is how bad it has to be.
Did either of you happen to see Paul Parker's comments on who he thinks should take over from Louis van Gaal?
I did see this.
Danny Dyer.
No. Paul Parker doesn't think they should hire Jose Mourinho. Tim Sherwood. Tim Sherwood for next Man United boss is Paul Parker's shout, the own goal machine that is Paul Parker.
Well, I think there's a theory behind that because Paul Parker, his nickname was Buzzy B because he was always on the phone, and I think all those radio waves. Apparently, back in the day, United in their Pomp Ferguson gigs and all that sort of stuff, he was always on their phone. And
hold on, they didn't really have they had those massive mobile phones.
Exactly,
he was on the payphone.
He had the brick Nokia, but I think all the rays of the early 90s his phones and started to tap and
Wow.
merge his brain cells into not very useful parts.
Remember that deflection he gave away for the German goal in the 1997 final?
Those are the memories.
Gosh,
Nothing, even Schiltz couldn't keep it out, could he? Not even Schiltz.
Even the greatest keeper of all time.
Well,
Anyway, so that's the wild card's first bet. What was his second?
I'm just to say on record, I don't fancy it. I just want to say that on record.
His second bet, it doesn't seem to matter how much. The wild card is an entity all of its own, and he doesn't seem to listen to advice. I've said to him many times, if you're going to back Everton in any way, please ask me first, and I will give you the lowdown on it. He completely ignores that and then just goes ahead and goes Bournemouth, Everton, both teams to score. Now,
go on, after
maybe.
Yeah.
I'd say it's probably. It was 3-3 in the league when we went there. So there's a very good chance of it. But I honestly think that game could go either way. It could be 3-0 to one or the other. It could be 0-0. It could be absolutely anything.
Both teams probably will not want a replay though. So you're thinking they'll probably go for it. It's not like when you play a lower league team, they want to keep the draw. They're likely to keep pushing towards the end.
And
so
the other thing that puzzles me about the wild card is how he keeps trying to bet on Everton in some way, and he keeps getting burned by them. So this week there was Everton and West Brom. He lost that. He bet on Boxing Day, I think it was, both teams to score when Everton played Newcastle, and it was 1-0 to us.
Who's bottom of the league for the FBC league?
It is
the wild
card.
But having not spoken to the wild card, I bet what he's got on his mind is when Everton last played Bournemouth, and it was 3-3. That 3-all thriller, and that's probably in his mind. And we discussed this last week. Everton are a lot better away from home. My concern is, I think that Everton will probably score because I think that with your league form being so poor, they will probably feel quite a strong team. My worry is Bournemouth. Is what type of a team is Eddie Howe going to put out there?
I think he'll put it out full strength side.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Because I'm not too sure. Because I think they would. I don't think Bournemouth are safe. I do not think. I think that they are at risk of going down.
They're not safe.
I think that he needs to protect his team for the league form.
I don't even know. I don't even know who their second string would be because I'm barely aware of their.
Don't know Bournemouth's second string.
Come on. See, their big striker was Callum Wilson, who
he's gone out. Yeah, ex-Cov.
He's been out for the whole season.
Bennett,
so I don't even know.
Benicophobe, and they've got King up front as well.
Or Joshua King, yeah.
I think that's got a fair chance.
And they've got got Glenn Murray as well.
They have got Glenn Murray.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they do.
Have they got anyone playing in defence? All we can name is strikers. All we've managed to name is strikers.
Well, didn't they go at the start of the season? They bought Tyrone Mings for like 6 million, and then he was just been injured for the whole season.
They got he's been quite good, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Who was the Ghanaian lad who was best player at the African Nations? We had him on loan last season, and he's not played for them all season.
Sure.
It will come back to me. He's on loan from Chelsea. It will come back to me. He never played for Everton either. He was awful. They signed Sylvain.
If there's any Bournemouth fans listening, please tweet us, innit?
I mean, we should probably know this.
Atsu.
Atsu,
Christian Atsu.
But I think there's a bit of trepidation with that one. But I think, to be fair, it's better than his first one. I would take Everton away at Bournemouth.
Is that a late kickoff for Bournemouth Everton game?
Yeah, it's live on terrestrial TV.
So if you are following our tips, I think all of ours are 3 o'clock on Saturday kickoffs, and then we'll be culminating in the grand finale when we're about to win all of this cash. We'll be resting on Bournemouth versus Everton. Both teams to score. So the wild card sets it up nicely. Maybe that's what he's thinking because apparently he's got a night shift at Stringfellows that he needs to get to straight after that.
I have heard.
Anyway.
Yeah,
so a full roundup of our 8-game accumulator, and like Justin said earlier, you don't necessarily have to follow all of these. It's just a selection that we think are probably the 8 kind of maybe best value or good range of tips for the weekend. So it would be Burnley 1.5, Burnley to win, Barnsley to win at 2.5, Bury to win
2.05
at 2.05. Sorry, Mansfield, which is to win 1.7. Nathan's ones were Forest Green to win against Eastleigh 1.83, and Wraith versus Livingston. This will let us down.
Keep the goals down, boys. Go on.
Under 2.5 goals at 2.2.
Berlin.
Hertha Berlin all over again. And then the wild cards, mystery tips from the dark side, are Watford to beat Leeds at 1.61 and Bournemouth versus Everton at the late kickoff, both teams to score 1.75. So all of that wrapped up together is how much did we?
It was
70
117.16. So
117 to 1 roughly. So that's a good value accumulator to get your weekend going.
Yeah.
And during the weekend's fixtures, you'll probably often see us tweeting on our Twitter accounts. Feel free to join in the debate, and we'll let you know about goals going in and different discussion points and things that are happening. For example, the generator blowing up for the under-soil heating at Aberdeen and praying the game to be cancelled.
If you'd like to discuss under-soil heating generators, then please get involved.
And don't forget, you can also leave us messages on the website www.thefootballbetclub.com, or you can contact us via Twitter or our Facebook pages. We also have SoundCloud and Mixcloud pages set up as well, which you can PM, personal message us on those as well. If you want us to discuss anything, if you want to ask us any questions, then go for it.
And remember to bet responsibly. We do it as a bit of a laugh and a joke between the three of us, and also just to win a little bit of money. So make sure you gamble responsibly. Do not gamble anything like sports cars, girlfriends, wives, babies, or houses to ensure that your life is happy and long lasting.
Oh, can I just get a last plug for? And this is also the global bet of the week this week, which I'm plugging away with. Now this week, before we go, I'd like to say, if you want another betting opportunity, you can go, and I will certainly be travelling to the Palestinian West Bank League, which or actually be travelling there because it's quite dangerous. But, Sunday at 4:00, Shabab Al Khalil are playing Shabab Dura, and that 1.5 is massive value there.
Hey, what is that? Home win?
No, for Al Khalil, yeah, they're on top form.
No. I don't think Al Khalil will.
Is that a home? Is that a home?
It's a home fixture for Al Khalil in the Palestinian West Bank League, so never a dull moment there. That's your lot. See you next week.
Right.
See you next week.
Take care.